All right, you guys. Marissa Almond, y'all know y'all can hear me, right? Okay. Anyway, you can't hear me?
We can,
Okay.
but
Can
you were
hear you
going
now.
like in and out.
Okay. Marissa is an emerald on our team, but I just want y'all to know, like, she's not, yes, she is emerald, but she's gonna be a diamond. Like Marissa is one of those people that you just know she is doing the work. She is in the trenches. And if you're on her team, you are blessed because she's an incredible leader. And so I don't know if it was last month or the month before, one of my power partners, Emily, was like, I really need a Marissa to come train our team. And she told me after, she was like, this is one of the best trainings we've ever had. She is such a great teacher. She's a teacher by trade. She's not anymore. She's a stay-at-home mom and does Flexus full time. But she is going to pour into us tonight. I'm really excited. So without further ado, take it away.
All right. Thanks, Jordan. Yes, I was so honored when Emily asked me because I love Emily, totally look up to her. And when she asked me to train, I thought, okay. And it was kind of a crazy time during when I did her training in my life. And so I told Jordan, I said, I'm happy to do it for our team, but like I need to get into my house first. So we're into my house and I am happy to share with you guys what I shared with Emily's team too. And what they were doing was a lot of focus on basics. So they were doing like a whole training based on just the basics of this business and what we do. And so what I'm going to share here with you guys tonight is the very same thing. Like what are the basics, why they matter, and pretty much how the basics got me to where I am. And like Jordan said, where we will go because we're not done. I'm just going to kind of take you guys through, like some of you know my journey because you've been here before I was here. And some of you are like, a lot of you are really new. So I kind of want to be able to paint a picture for you on like who I am, what this journey has looked like for me, and sort of a timeline that goes with it. Because I think it helps to really paint the picture of like why this stuff matters, why the basics really are like the name of the game and why we should continue to do them. Because especially during like accountability group, if you've been a part of that, we've been talking and hearing a lot about like leadership isn't like fancy and leadership isn't like super fun and exciting all the time. It's pretty much doing a lot of the sticker. I know it's pretty bedtime. It's pretty much doing like a lot of the same thing over and over and over again. And there's not always a lot, there isn't always a sticker that comes your way that's like, hey, good job, you know? And you're not always going to get that in your business as far as like, you know, signing up people or, you know, like finding business builders. It doesn't always feel like that. But when you're doing the really kind of boring things sometimes, like day in and day out, and you're making it a part of your very consistent work that you do, it will get you to where you want to be when you're consistent, give it time, and mindset and vision has a lot to do with that as well, but we're going to talk about that too. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through, I actually wrote out because I couldn't remember all of the things, but I'm going to walk you through a little bit of my journey so that you can kind of paint, like get a picture of what I'm talking about as far as like speed and doing the things. Okay, so I first signed up in April of 2020. I was literally like 2 weeks postpartum with my third baby. Katie Burns is my sponsor and she was like, hey, I've got a discount code for you. I'm like, okay, let's do it. Let's sign it. It was the last day of the month. And then I started loving my products and I didn't start sharing them until July. No, that's not true. I did an event in June because that is what my sponsor does. And that's who I poured from. I did an event in June. I was literally driving to Tahoe in the car from Utah with my family. And that's when the event was going on. I wasn't paying attention. I was very like an annoying person that we've all dealt with that like you do an event for and they're not really paying attention to anything that you're doing. But what happened from that event is I did go back And I saw the recordings. I remember specifically watching Jordan's live. I remember specifically seeing Katie's live and thinking, wow, that's cool, because she had just had a baby. And I thought, wow, all these other people. And I remember messaging her, like, all of your friends really stepped up to like help you do this event. You had your baby, and she was like nursing during the video. And I thought, these girls are kind of cool. So right away, like that sort of started painting a picture for me of like, who are these people? It's more than just these products, and started to cast a vision for me right away. So take note, if you have people that you sign up as a VIP, something that Katie does that is really amazing that she's taught me is I just offer events to every person that I sign up. It's a part of the system that I do. Hey, I do this for everybody. I'd love to help you share with some friends. You never know who you can bless. Like, you never know who in your network might want these products. And so from that event, what happened was I did go silver. 3 people did sign up, and it didn't just happen from like, oh, the event, they loved it and everybody just signed up. It happened because my sponsor helped me reach out to people and we had 1 person sign up from the event. Then from there, I went and talked to my mom, and I went and talked to my cousin and got them both signed up, and I went silver in June. Okay. So that happened in June. In July, I actually made my first post, and it was nothing fancy. I remember it was 4th of July, and I remember messaging Katie, and I was like, I think I'm going to post, but should I wait because it's 4th of July? Like, you know, she's like, no, everybody's online on 4th of July. And so I remember I posted, and I did go silver, senior silver in July. It was July 15th. So shortly after that 4th of July post is when I went senior silver. Also, in the meantime, the one friend, those of you that know my team and you know the people that are here, the one friend that signed up from my event in June is Carly, who's on my team still, who still runs and does this business, which is really cool. So she was like, okay, I want to get my products paid for too. So this is what happens too when you do an event, is like, you never know if you find somebody like that. And then we just started running together. And it's really cool because as we started building our business, we kind of found people, I think, in pairs. And a lot of people started running together. So that whole idea of like finding a power partner or finding somebody that is similar to you, that wants to do the things, that's as committed as you are, like, is really, really powerful. We ran together for the majority of our whole business. We still run together, but I'm just saying, like, when we first got started, we didn't know what we were doing. We were just like, all right, we're just signing up people, and like, we're kind of figuring it out as we go, like using these groups, we're tagging things. And from there, what we started doing was like, we just started doing events for everybody, just like us. Like, that's what we did. We did events. Like, Katie held an event for me. I'm gonna hold an event for everybody. And it's so basic, but it works because you are right. It's duplication. You are showing the VIPs that sign up with you that this is so much more when you're doing an event than just a supplement. You get a whole community, you get a whole accountability group. And now with what we have with like Pivotal and you know, all of the nutrition and that whole group in and of itself, the reset groups, like, there's so much that we can plug them into that helps people be so much more accountable and really see the vision of what Plexus is, and so much more than just supplements. You can get supplements anywhere else, right? You're not going to get good supplements like you get here, but that's the whole point, I think, of like this, that sometimes I think that a lot of times really, like, we kind of forget about. And I think that's what makes us so special here, is like, this is so much more than a pink drink and supplements. This is community. This is leading with purpose. This is really impacting people. So Jordan said, I'm a school teacher by trade. I love children. I love to teach. It's always been a passion of mine. It's always something that I've wanted to do. And what I have found here is that now that I'm not teaching anymore, and even when I was really, you know, moving through Plexus and figuring out what this was and what this could be, I started to kind of shift that of like, I can as much as I wanted to make an impact with kids and teach and, build up our future and all the things that, teachers dream of, right? What I was finding is that was becoming harder and harder for me to do and be present for my family. It was becoming harder and harder for me to do every time that we moved, and just different things in my lifestyle. It wasn't always working out the way that I wanted it to be. But what I found with Plexus is that I can still make a huge impact, and I can make an impact on the moms that are dropping off those babies at school. I can make an impact with, really honing in on our community and what this can bring to other people. And I think a lot of times we sort of miss the mark on that a little bit, and we don't talk about that as much as I think that we should or we could, because some of you on this call have known me for a long time. If you're on my team, some of you are like, we have known each other since elementary school or whatever. And I haven't always been, or maybe you didn't know, I haven't always been a very confident person. Like, that has not always been something that is part of me. It is something that I had to learn to become. And I think with teaching, having to speak in front of people, having to have conversations about, with parents about their children, it's something that I really had to figure out and learn how to have very, very, academic conversations with people and feel confident in that. Even when that's not my strength. And I had to learn more about my strengths. And I think that because of those pieces, it helped me when I transitioned into doing more of this kind of work, bring those strengths with me, and lean into that, and be able to realize wow, that's really far. When you stop and reflect, that's really far that I've come personally, and understand that not everybody has had that same journey. And you could be talking to people that were like me before, that needed somebody in their corner that's like, hey, I see this in you. You have this community here. Let's help you feel great with these products. But I also want to connect you with my friend, because she also deals with blank, blank, and blank. You know what I mean? There's so much more. There's so much purpose. And it's so powerful here. And I know that my mind is just going to be blown even more once we go to Hawaii and see what else Plexus is going to throw at me. But there's just so much to be said about being in a space with other women or men that are driven, that you can learn from, that you can grow from, and really, instead of looking at other people as a comparison, because that's going to stifle you, looking at them wow, that's inspiring. What are you doing? Can I learn from you? And I've had so many people here that I'm looking at on the screen that I have done that with. I'll send them a message. Hey, tell me about what you're doing. This is really cool, whatever. And sharing those things, because that's how we grow. And that's what we need to offer to our VIPs, whether they want to do the business or not, because that's what my sponsor did. And that's how I ended up here. She got me on a phone call and was like, tell me about your dreams. Tell me about what's going on. And that's what led me to go to a team call. So back to the basics is this is the basics, you guys, being on the team calls. And it was something that I committed to when I said, I'm going to do this business. I'm going to be there on the team calls. And some nights I was bathing my kids. Some nights, I said this in the last one, I'm like, some nights I was driving across a time zone and I didn't even know what time zone I was in, but I was going to be on the team call, because that's really true. But just committing to those things, committing to a team call, it seems so simple, but this is where we learn. This is where we connect with our community. This is where we really get inspired. I can't tell you how many team calls I've been on where I'm like, okay, that's it. That's what I need to go do. That's the missing piece, or that's really cool. Or somebody says something that makes me get creative in my own business and come up with something else that works for us. Or help me to dream and to figure out where I can take this. We've done a lot of team calls where we're vision casting and writing out things, and it's just so powerful. And I think that as much as we can connect our people into this is going to really help you grow. You may be surprised and find somebody that, you know, really loves this and wants to take off. And that's going to be huge for your business. It's going to be huge for them. What an impact you've been able to make. So back to the basics. No, I was telling my timeline. Sorry, I'm a little scattered. Okay, so I went senior silver in July. Okay, then you guys, 1 week later, it was fast start gold. Like, it was insane. July 22nd was fast start gold. And I'm telling you, that's because we were giving everybody that signed up was doing an event. We were like back to back to back events all the time. And the cool thing is, those things are already done. You're literally just duplicating the events that are already created for you to use. So just all we got to do is use them. And then Fast Start Senior Goal happened in August, very next month. Like, I'm telling you, it was all duplication. It was silvers, but we were also recruiting. Like, we had crazy, insane, like, recruiting numbers at the very beginning. And I will tell you, that's not just because I was posting and waiting for people to come to me. That's because I was reaching out. I had people that came to mind. At this point, I was so new. We were moving so fast. I don't even know where my list was or what was happening with my list at that time, but I was literally just at home during the summer with all my babies because I wasn't working during the summertime as a teacher. And I was just in my messenger and I was just like, oh my gosh, so-and-so came to my mind today. This person came to mind today. I'm going to call my cousin. I'm going to call my grandma and I'm going to tell them about this. And I'm like literally just signing up people back to back to back because they came to my mind. They were on my heart. I wanted to reach out to them. And I was not ashamed or afraid to tell them, this is what I'm doing. Yeah, you're going to sign up with me. Yeah, that means I am going to make money from your order. But guess what? You can make money from other people's orders too. And you're going to feel awesome. And I feel very confident. I know these products are going to help you. So do you see how, like, the other things that we've already talked about in these team calls the last couple of weeks that Chandler talked about, like your posture and your confidence, you got to come into those messages with that. You got to reach out. And I'm going to tell you, it's not weird to reach out to people that you know. Okay. Notice these are all people that I know. Yeah. I signed up friends from high school or friends from, you know, that my husband knew that I had a few encounters with, but like, I know them. We have a relationship. Yeah. We haven't talked in several years, but it's not weird for me to reach out to them because they came to my mind. They came to my heart for whatever reason. And I feel very confident in whatever they're dealing with that this is going to help. So I just want to put that out there that, like, the reaching out, I know that a lot of times we get a lot of drama in our heads about reaching out to people, but when you have a relationship with somebody, they trust you. You are their friend for whatever reason. They like you. Like, they like you. And so it's not weird to reach out and say, hey, I'm doing this thing and I really love it. And I think you'd love it too. And this is why. And so that's what I did. And that's how things just started snowballing and moving. And you never know. Sometimes it was like the most random person that I would not even expect it is then all of a sudden messaging me like, hey, my neighbor wants to sign up. Like, that's kind of how it works. And that's what was happening. Okay. So Senior Gold was in August, and then we went Ruby on Halloween, October 31st. I remember, and it was at this point, and yes, I cried like a baby. I was so excited because Ruby remember that we were like orders away and we all just like wanted to go take our kids out to go trick-or-treating. We're like, we just got to make this happen. And I was just bawling, and I'm like carving pumpkins for whatever. I don't know why we were carving pumpkins on Halloween. We missed the boat there for sure. But we were carving pumpkins and I'm like crying. And my husband was just like, what's going on? I'm like, we hit Ruby. Like, I was so excited because it was at one of those ranks where I think everything was moving so fast, and we did have a couple months from senior Ruby or from senior gold to Ruby. And I feel like it kind of gave me some time to like catch up to what was going on and catch up to like what the vision was, because at that point I wanted to go Ruby, but my eye was already on Emerald. Like I was already like, this, if we can do this, like we can go all the way. Like there's no stopping. And so it was just that constant play of vision. And that didn't just happen out of nowhere. Like vision was a huge piece and still is. Like it's my most favorite thing to like play with, I think. Because of, you know, being present in the team. I wouldn't have been able to have that vision if I wasn't having conversations with this group of people right here, this community, if I wasn't watching Diamond documentaries, if I wasn't listening to training videos, if I wasn't listening to podcasts, if I wasn't doing any of those things, I would have no idea what hitting Ruby really meant. So like, that was a huge piece. So at that point was when I truly started saying to myself, and I think it was just a few days after that, I remember sitting in bed with my husband and I was like, okay, I got to tell you something. And I spilled the beans. I was like, I want to leave teaching and I want to be home with the kids. And I'm going to do that with Plexus. And it was the first time I had told him that I had really voiced out loud to anyone that leaving teaching was on the agenda and I was going to be home with our kids because we never knew when we were going to move again. And I just really wanted to be able to be the constant for them, because at this point too, in my home life, we were going through like nanny after nanny after nanny and things were just like all over the place. And I was done. Like I was tired of it. And I just wanted to be there for my kids. And it was at that point where I felt like, okay, like this, I'm gonna really run with this. And so, you know, he was on board, but I think that like until I was able to really say that out loud, I always kind of allowed myself this, you know, if I felt like it, like, oh, well, maybe I just like won't do that thing, or I'm just gonna like downplay this. But it was once I really voiced that out loud to somebody, and it was scary for me to say it, it was like, well, now I gotta go. Like somebody else knows what's on the inside. Like somebody else knows. So I've got to step up. And so, okay, so then we went Ruby. And then after that, senior Ruby came in March of 2021. And I remember this because in April was the first time I ever went on an event or went to an event with Plexus. And it was a super cool, like I remember I almost didn't go. And then Jordan messaged me and she's like, you got to figure out how to go. And I'm like, okay, I'm going. And we went to Arkansas. It was just this little retreat. And it was my first ever Plexus event. I was scared. I hadn't met anybody in person ever, not even my own sponsor. And I have to say that because going to events is not always convenient. Going to events is not always easy. It is scary. But that trip right there was massive for me. It was so fun. I felt like Chandler, it was so fun. We just laughed and we connected, and it was so much vision casted there. We ended up actually going to Jessica Heffley's, and like there were like, I just remember walking, we pulled up to the house and like all these Lexuses outside. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is for real. And then we like walk in, it's like all this food and all these people, and they're all in their pajamas. They're all just like hanging out in their jams. And like, I'm like, they're like real, like super normal, very casual people. Like, okay, like, I see you, I can do that. I'm going to do this. But I'm just saying, like, going to events is not always convenient. Going to events is scary, but those are the super simple basics that you got to do, especially if you've got teammates. Going to events, talk about leadership, being able to be there with them and do those things with them is, yeah, there were like 10 Lexuses in the driveway. It was insane. I remember I took like a video, but like being there and being able to help them cast that vision. Cause like, I could just not imagine, I really couldn't imagine not going to any of the events and being able to have that super clear vision of what Plexus could be. Like, I really think that it, like, my path would have gone very differently. So far I've talked about the basics, right? I've talked about posting, reaching out, events, casting vision, going, and then you going to events. So like hosting events and then going to like team Plexus events. And so you can only imagine how how much FOMO I was having when you guys were all at convention and I was home having a baby. I was like, I gotta be at the event. But like, they're so huge. I'm just, anyway, go to all of the events that you can. And now that we can even host our own is a huge reason for you to do that, because you never know. Like, you can, with the people that you go to church with, or, friends that you make at the park or whoever, like, invite them to your events that you're hosting in person. I don't know if you guys saw that like thing that went out. You can like sign up for your own now and do a whole thing. But okay, so going to events. Then so we hit Senior Ruby in March of 2021. Emerald happened just this last March. So Senior Ruby we were there for a full year before Emerald happened. And Emerald didn't just happen. Okay, there was a lot of bumpiness happening in that year. But that is because and as much as I kept saying to my team, you guys, I did it. I was like, we're gonna go Emerald. And guess what? We didn't go Emerald. Like, at least a solid 4 times we did that. And and the point is, like, even though you sometimes proclaim that you're going to have these massive rank ups and you fail, it's okay to fail. It's just a feeling, right? It sucks, but it's about how long you sit there and what you learn from it. Because I can tell you the first few times that I was like, we're going to go Emerald, and then we failed, I didn't learn it. Like, I clearly didn't learn anything from it. So like, if you continue to have those, then that just means that like, you haven't learned what you're supposed to learn yet. So like, go reflect, go figure out what you got to learn so that the next time you do it, you don't fail, or at least the next time you do it, you at least grow a little bit. Because I'm going to tell you right now, the few times that I like said I was going to do it, we were exactly where we started. There was literally zero growth. So like, I was not learning what I was supposed to learn. And it took some real deep reflection, and it took me some time to like go back to, instead of just always being, and I know we talked about this a little bit on the last calls, like, instead of being the person that was just like, I'm going to go do all the things, I needed to slow my pace enough to reflect and figure out what I needed to learn. Because I'm like, I'm doing all the things. How come it's not working? Why aren't we ranking up? Like, all of the things that we say all the time. But what I needed to learn, you guys, was how to be a better leader, how to lead myself better. Yeah, I was doing all the things. Yeah, I was recruiting. Yeah, I was, even duplicating, but I wasn't really allowing myself much balance. I wasn't allowing myself any fun in my life. I shouldn't say any fun in my life. I just wasn't doing enough of the things that I think brought me joy to be able to really see the big picture of this business, the gratitude. I wasn't laying in the gratitude as much as I should have been. I had to learn how to go do that stuff again. So what did I do? When we were in low momentum and I was finally learning the things, that is when I did some resting, I did some planning, I looked at my systems, and I tweaked some things. I took over coaching calls for my team because my upline Katie was doing coaching calls for all of us. And I said, okay, come January, I'm going to take on coaching calls for my team. And I did. And what happened from me taking over coaching calls in January was that I learned that a lot of my team was feeling confused on our systems. They weren't sure what to do next or how to word things, where things are found. So during that slow time, I revamped our systems. I put together the new graphics for our events, and I made it all accessible and easy for my team to find. I refreshed things because there were some changes that were going on in the compensation plan, and I just like cleaned things up in the team. But I did not stop recruiting. My number one priority was still to grow my team, but I knew we weren't in this crazy momentum, and I didn't have new leaders at the time that I was developing. So I had time to go fix the things that needed to be fixed. Don't go fix the things that don't need to be fixed. Just go fix the things that need to be fixed. And a lot of times that comes from figuring out, like for me, I wouldn't have known that I needed to fix my systems if I didn't take the time to take over the coaching calls. I honestly had no time in my day to take on coaching calls. And there was a lot of like scary that came up for me when I said I'm going to take on the coaching calls, because I didn't honestly know how I was going to fit it in. And I was kind of feeling like, ooh, and my team even going to be able to like, does anybody even want to stay up late to like do a coaching call with me? Because like I work late at night. So there was a lot of like these stories that I was telling myself, but I'm so glad that I did, because that's how I learned that my team needed that. I didn't know what they need. Wasn't doing enough listening of what it was that they needed. And I was doing too much talking at them and just like giving them the next task instead of allowing them to really talk through their own stuff and figure out how to find answers for themselves, figure out how to, do some of the things on their own. Because at this point I was doing a lot of the things for my team just because I know how to do it. I can do it real quick, instead of like, okay, I'm going to lead you to where to go, and then you can go find it so that you can learn it so that you can do it next time, and then you can duplicate it down. So, so that was something that I did. And then I started getting really, really intentional with like a 90-day plan. I wasn't expecting that, okay, I fixed my systems, now we're going to go Emerald the next month. Like, no, that's not how it works. I needed to be really intentional with my relationships. I needed to go fill my funnel. I needed to, like, truthfully, if this is what I really wanted to happen, and I had this timeline that was set, like Emerald's happening in March, whether we're ready or not, like I'm coming. And it's coming, and we're going to do it. But I knew that it wasn't just going to happen with me just prepping for a few days before, end of month, I'm going to prep for going Emerald the next month. Like it was literally January, all of January prepped for this, all of February prepped for this. I think I even did a 100-person reach out in December, or maybe that was January. I'm not sure, somewhere around there that happened. So like that, and the only reason I was able to like, I think a lot of why that happened in March with Emerald was because I knew it was coming. So like John Maxwell always talks about, like, leaders are great because they see into the future, right? But you can't be too far ahead of your team, or else you're not relating to them, you're not connecting with them, and you don't know what's going on with them. So for me, during that time of sitting at Senior Ruby, I was sitting so far ahead of my team and trying to get to Emerald that I wasn't seeing what was going on within the team. And so I had to pull myself back. My vision was still there, but I had to pull myself back and get in line with them so that we could all move in the same direction. And once we were all starting to move in the same direction, the momentum was there, because I was now leading myself properly, and I was in the things with my team. We were doing it all together. Yeah, I feel like there was something else I was going to say there, but sort of lost track. Anyway, that was the work. It was the work. January, February, started filling my funnel. I started getting really intentional with my with my relationships. Oh, this is what I was going to say. I needed to spend more time on social media. Like I just needed to, if I wanted this to happen. I know that's probably not what some of you want to hear, but like when you have this vision, I was out there like looking for the people. I'm like, okay, I'm looking for the people because I knew on my list, because I had already done my reflecting, these are the kind of people that I want to attract to my team. And I had the qualities listed out. They're fun, they're family oriented. They are people with integrity. They are driven, self-starters. There are people that I want to talk to every day. I'm going to go really pour into those people, and I'm going to show them what this is about. And whether they want to come do it or not, I know that it's at least time well spent, because maybe they're a friend. Like if they're a cool person, then their friends are probably cool too. So maybe they, like that's kind of the way that I approached like my prospecting, I guess. As having that goes again to that really clear vision, but not staying too far ahead of my team, really being able to be there and leading myself well. So I knew, because I had already told my team several times, like, we're going to do Emerald. We're going to do it this time. And they're like, like, okay, let's see it. I knew that if this was going to happen, I was going to have to start the month just balling out. Like I just had to. I just had to be the person on your team that you want on your team. I was like, I want to be that girl that I want on my team. And I'm going to show up, and I'm going to show up really well every single day, whether I want to or not, because this is what I want. And I'm not going to back down, even though the numbers were not, it was crazy. It was crazy. And it didn't always make sense, but we did it. And we did it because we didn't stop. And the only reason I was able to not stop, because there could have been a lot of times when I could have stopped, is because I stayed focused in on the growth. I stayed focused in on the gratitude. I was having fun. We went on 2 vacations in March. We had a ton of fun in March, and we still did it. And I think, honestly, that was a huge reason why we were able to do it. Because if I was just home and I was just like on my couch, like that's not fun. Okay. Like you're working really hard. Yeah. But like, what is the energy that you're putting out? Like, that's like scarcity mindset. That's like, I got to do this. I got to do this. Instead, I was like, I can't do that again. I've been there before and it didn't work. And I don't want to be there. That's not the person that I want to be. That's not how I want to feel when we hit this rank. I want to feel, and like I truly envisioned, and I would write down in my notebook all the time, like we are Emerald. And I would like envision the way I was going to feel so much. And I know it probably sounds like way honky to like some of you, but I'm telling you, this is what I learned that worked, because during that time of sitting at Senior Ruby for 1 year, and I'm not saying that like that's a bad thing. Senior Ruby is a great place to be sitting at. Like there's no complaining there. But what I'm saying is I wasn't done, and I'm still not done. So like, you have to know that like, yeah, the seasons are going to be there, but could you imagine if I quit during that year? I was just thinking about this the other day when I'm unpacking and like putting stuff in my pantry. And I'm thinking about how I just dropped off my kids at school and I'm in my leggings in my kitchen, like organizing my house. Like I could, like, if I would have quit during that time when it was hard and I was having all those negative things come up and I was like beating myself up over my mindset, and I was being really invested in the no's that I was getting, or the people on my team that weren't growing, or the people that kept saying that I want to go do this and I want to go do that, and then you pour all this into them and then they stop and they quit, or like nothing happens. And during all that time, had I quit, like I couldn't even, like, I don't really want to think about it because it might make me cry with all this postpartum stuff going on. But like it would be like my life would be so different right now if I couldn't. Like truly, and I'm not just exaggerating that. Like with this move that we had come up with, you know, just yeah, just like I would be in a classroom and I wouldn't be with my kids every single day. And I would be looking for childcare in a place that I don't know anybody and spending a ton of money with 4 kids in childcare. Like, yes. So what I'm saying to you is there's going to be hard times, but when you focus on yourself and lead yourself well, sometimes that means, and this is what I had to do. I had to remove myself emotionally from some of the things that were happening within my team. And I had to say, I know that this is hard. And I know that like, you know, they know that I love them and I care about them. But right now I'm going to just like, I'm going to put the blinders on and I'm just going to like totally focus in on my plan. Because what happened is once things got moving and I was sending messages, I was sending my message examples into my thread every single day. And there were a lot of times when the thread was just me popping up all of this stuff and nobody was in there or even seeing it or whatever. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to keep doing it because I know that this is good accountability for me and I'm leading by example. Because if I lead myself well and it starts with you, like Trent Shelton always says, it starts with you, but like it starts with you and you can set the tone. And momentum really within the team didn't even start like revving up in March until, I don't know, maybe at least a weekend. Like I remember thinking we're like 6 or 7 days in, the only ads are mine. Like what's going on? But people started seeing on the team like, oh, she's not kidding, because I had said it was the month of the remarkable was March. Add 6, get a remarkable, and then we had leaders retreat, and I was like, I'm adding my 6 before we go to leaders retreat, and I did. I think it was like the night before we left. I finally added my 6, and then I think at that point my team was like, okay, she's for real. Like we really are going to do this, you know? So I think sometimes it really just takes that within you. It's like making that commitment to say, this is what I'm going to do. And whether you're on board or not, I'm going to do it. Because some people, you know, sometimes it happens where some people don't get on board, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it. Because what happened, you guys, in that month is I brought on 2 new business builders in March. And then in April, I think I developed like 3 level 1 silvers because of the momentum that happened in March. Like new builders are on the team now because of the work that was put in there in that momentum. Because how fun is it to join a team when like somebody's hitting a huge rank and you're like, oh, what's going on? Okay, let's get on a Zoom. Let's do all the things. And you're like, oh, these people are fun. Like, I want to stick around. Like, I want to be on that team. So sometimes it just comes down to like, those are all, you guys, this is nothing that you haven't heard before. This is all basic messaging, events, sharing what you're doing in your thread, shouting out people. Yeah, I think brand new people really did think we were just crazy on that Zoom at the end of the month. They're like, what is happening? I don't know where I'm at. We're in a tornado and it's cool and it's fun and I'm going to stay here and watch. But like, yeah, that's pretty much it. Like it's super basic, you guys, but I'm telling you, this is what compounds. This is where consistency comes from. Like doing the very simple things. And one thing that I didn't talk about yet is something that I do every single day is go into my virtual office. Don't hide from that. Don't hide from your VO. It's your best tool. I promise you. Go into that thing, check it out every single day, look at your points and feel grateful for the points that you have. And then say, all right, where are my credit card declines? Let's check the perks report. Let's run my numbers so that I know where I'm at, because you can't get where you want to go if you don't know where you are. Jordan always says that. But very simple, very basic things. But when you do it, consistently. Plus, it takes up way less brain space when you just do it every day. It's just like rote memory. You're doing it and you're aware and you're there. And then you know, it's one less thing really to think about, because if you are a mom, you know, like you don't need anything else up there clouding your brain. You just do it. Just do the same thing each day. It becomes like memory, just like brushing your teeth, right? It's like habit. And that's pretty much, I think that's all I've got, Jordan.
Well, I just have to say this, and y'all, I don't mean this any other way than like how I'm about to say it. Marissa is not special. I am not special, okay? But the things she just talked about, these basic things, these are things that successful people do. They have family time and work time. They do these basics, these basic pillars, right? Like, I love that you just broke it down in a way is like, if you go master these things, you'll be diamond. Like, done, easy, right? It's not gonna be easy, but it is simple. I'm gonna stop recording, and if anybody has questions for her, where's my